Greetings and salutations, friends. We are doing a rare now late night show. Just had some other things to attend to earlier, and but I still want to come here and spend some time watering this garden. Yesterday, we were talking about the Hutchison effect, or excuse me, we were talking about John Hutchison crystal power cells. Um, Yeah, and I'm noticing something in the live chat. I'll address that. So yesterday we were talking about John Hutchison and crystal power cells. John Hutchison, for those that don't know, is a self-taught sort of electronics experimenter who became quite famous, first emerging in about, I believe it was 1979, uh, with many out there theories. He was a Tesla enthusiast, built many Tesla coils and things like that. Um, but it was later, perhaps in the 80s and 90s, that he really rose to prominence and fame. He's been on hundreds, I was not aware of this, he's been on hundreds of television shows, which covered what most people would call his sort of fringe science. For those that don't know, what he's most famous for is something called the Hutchison effect, which basically he claims that he can cancel out gravity. And there are some very famous videos now of him floating everything from, buckets to ice cream, or having the effect of gravity canceled and these things fly off of a table. And we're going to look at some of that. So he's most famous for what is now termed the Hutchison effect. But I thought it was interesting that there is actually a Hutchison effect.com website. And it's interesting in that it really looks like it's from 1990 or something. It looks like a MySpace website. And we're going to share that because I think this has got to be run by him, or at least a very close supporter of his, because it lists a lot of different videos, all the press that he has received, all of the television shows that he has been on. 1 second, friends. Let me see if I can't make that a little bigger. It's a good idea not to use very small fonts on your website. So I'm going to cite fair use. I mean, it's a website, but we're still going to share it because it's very interesting. The sort of bio that was written for John Hutchison paints him as a real visionary, which is why I suspect that this website is run by him or owned by him. But before we do that, I'll address the live chat. Karma Grays is a bit worried about Spectral International LLC. Who are they? Are they privately owned and operated? Are they a funding arm of this show? Yes, all of the above. And Jean-Claude nailed it when he said Spectral International LLC is an alleged arm's length branch of the CIA, MK Ultra. Yeah, it's a CIA front, Karma Grace. Jean-Claude nailed it. Yes, he did. And I love that new avatar. Where can I get a cartoon avatar like that? Wanted to put that out there, see if I could upset some people. Looks like I was right. No, actually, Karma Gray, nobody's upset. Most people know Spectral International LLC is my company, my startup. So everything that I do is produced by Spectral International LLC, which is my company. Sometime after COVID hit, I took down our company website and other things because, quite honestly, there was no reason to have a website when my business was in the crapper. I'm going to be putting up a new website, which will be more focused on what my current business, adventures are all about. Spectral International LLC might also be a secret holdings of David Wilcock LLC. Yeah, it could be. That's my constant side-eye avatar. Yeah, why would that upset everyone? Anybody, most people, a few people have asked me actually who that was, and I just tell them, yeah, that's my company. I registered an LLC some years ago. Sure, Agent Steven, sure. Yeah, if I'm a CIA disinformation agent, Vanessa Thor, somebody's mailing my checks to my old address because I haven't gotten a check lately. So either I'm off the payroll or somebody forgot to put me on the payroll. But I have actually been accused of that, especially by people that are big supporters of Bob Lazar, say that I was put here by the CIA to discredit Bob Lazar. Okay. And I think somebody said that about me trying to discredit Billy Meyer as well. So I'm a CIA shill that's trying to throw people off about the truth about aliens, bro. Okay, so back to, I will share the screen and we'll read Mr. Hutchison's, probably, I'm going to call it, this has got to be a self-written bio because it's so, I don't know, just sort of grandiose, right? And this is from the Hutchison Effect website. So it says here, John Hutchison's life changed drastically in 1979 when, upon starting up an array of high voltage equipment, he felt something hit his shoulder. He threw the piece of metal back to where it seemed to have originated, and it flew up and hit him again. This was how he originally discovered fundamental frequencies can shield gravity. John Hutchison is one of the foremost Nikola Tesla experts alive today. He has I think that's supposed to be replicated. Guess nobody proofread this. He has replicated many of Nikola Tesla's works over the years, including the death ray and a smaller Philadelphia experiment. When I read this, I first looked into Hutchison years ago, and I got to admit, those videos that he makes was pretty interesting to watch. But coming from a background in stage magic, I looked at them and said, he just put a camera upside down or something. They just don't look, we're going to look at them and everybody else can judge. But to me, they don't look credible. When John's Tesla coils, electrostatic generator, and other equipment created a complex electromagnetic field, heavy pieces of metal levitated and shot towards the ceiling, and some pieces shredded. Upon analysis and thorough investigation, the Canadian government dubbed this phenomenon the Hutchison effect. What is the Hutchison effect? As with much of the new energy field, no one can say for sure. Some theorists think that the effect is the result of opposing electromagnetic fields canceling each other out, creating a powerful flow of space energy. The Canadian government also reported invisible samples phasing in and out of existence. A Vancouver businessman, George Hathaway, heard about the Hutchison effect in 1980, contacted Hutchison, and brought in a consulting engineer from Boeing Aerospace and the Canadian government to form a company that would promote technology developed from the effect. They called the company Pharos Technology. Many different political factors ensured Hutchison would not be allowed to continue in his research unless he signed agreements with either the Canadian government or the U.S. military. John refused both offers. A little while after he returned from Los Alamos military base during one of John's overseas trips to Germany to secure funding from a different government, the Canadian government seized the opportunity to acquire all of John's priceless replications of Nikola Tesla's equipment. They collaborated with his partner, who was paid upwards of $70 million for information and samples of John's field stress detector. And this is all unsubstantiated. I have seen some proof that would seem to indicate that the Canadian government did raid his lab and take stuff, though. But I don't know about this claim that they paid somebody $70 million for information and samples. That seems pretty far out there claim, and I've never seen proof of anything like that. The government also created a false PCB scandal so that they could use the local press to justify their actions and hide the true nature of what the government was actually removing from John's lab located at 13th and Kingsway, Vancouver, British Columbia. After many more years of experiments, demonstrations, and lectures in other countries, such as USA, Germany, and Japan, Hutchison returned to Vancouver in 1991. Piece by piece, he built out of surplus Navy equipment what now has become a landmark in New Westminster, British Columbia. John has built himself an apartment laboratory second to none. It took several years before he could reestablish his collection, however, despite many obstacles. Most political, John, until recently, had his apartment lab equipped to perform for all types of media demonstrations, demonstrating the Hutchison effect. The mayor of New Westminster forced him to cease in 2006. Then in 2010, John was forcibly removed by order of the mayor, directing the fire marshal to remove him from his famous apartment lab in Fifth Avenue. Under the experiments section, you will find John and friends are still developing new ideas and historically engineering suppressed and lost technologies for release and scrutiny by the general public. The Egyptian technology section and the Atlantean technology section are favorite topics of ours and the fans. I just got to say, like, okay, maybe there's something to Egyptian technology, lost technology, but Atlantean technology, really? Okay. How can he confirm or deny that some unknown or little known technology came from Atlantis? That's a pretty far out there claim, but it's nothing new. And look at this website. Boy, lightning bolts and everything. In John's newsletter, he has released never before seen previously classified documentation from his own works, as well as some of his Department of Defense documentation he has acquired over the years from government sources, with or without official authorization. Please enjoy this independent scientist's website and all it has to offer. John has remained independent regardless of multi-million-dollar offers to conceal his findings from the general public. And here we have that riff with some of these new energy guys, that the government or multi-billion-dollar corporations try to buy them off and shelf their technology so they can't share it with the world. NASA is among the agencies he has turned down, as well as both North American superpowers' offerings to privatize and militarize his inventions. John believes in a world of free energy and the marvels of anti-gravity for the general public, not just those in positions of power. Now that the government has destroyed his third laboratory and again taken his home from him, where did John end up with his tiny fixed income and boxes of his broken dreams? A German research team bought his entire New Westminster apartment laboratory after seeing demonstrations of his effect, and gave him enough seed money to take his whole new show on the road with his new wife, Nancy. As John travels the USA in his newly converted SWAT bus, mobile laboratory, he treats polluted waters of the Gulf with the Hutchison effect and researches different possible pollution solutions from his mobile command center. So he's living in an RV. He also remains hopeful his inventions one day will ease the burden and suffering and enrich all mankind around the world, rich or poor. In the end, the government didn't crash his spirit and destroy his dreams. They set him loose. John roams the planet quite freely now with his wife and explores nature's mysteries to this very day. We hope you enjoy the website, and if you feel the desire to participate in John's adventure, all you will need to do is email him. I just want to mention that I did email Mr. Hutchison for an interview and did not hear back from him. This website looks pretty old. I don't know if anybody's still checking it. And by the way, yeah, you can make a PayPal donation or you can sign up for his newsletter. There's a newsletter that he puts out about his research. So we'll stop sharing that because the lightning bolts are going to give me a headache. So John Hutchison has made some really out there various claims about his laboratories getting raided. I did happen to see some paperwork that proved that the Canadian government raided his one of his laboratories. So there is a paper trail that proved that they did raid his laboratory, but it was apparently over health and safety violations. You can Google John Hutchison's apartment, and then you'll understand why they may have raided his apartment. I'm not sure if the whole narrative that he's telling, that the government's trying to steal his research and shut down his research, really is credible. I'm unsure, so I'm not going to make a determination on that. Just mentioning. Okay, yeah, we're going to put a user in timeout. This is the second time in 2 days I've had to put a user in timeout, and it's the same user. Play nice or don't come here. Yeah. Preg Magic, or out of mind, I believe, I agree with you. And same for Vanessa Thor. You guys can boot him if he comes back and he says anything nasty to anybody, just boot him, you know? Yeah. So the effect, the Hutchison effect. Here's what I find suspect about the effect. It's like a catch-all for, it's tied into the Philadelphia experiment, like he can phase matter in and out of existence with it. It's anti-gravity. He can make things float, make things move with it. At least he claims that he can. And we'll unpack some more of that. But I found a really good video of sort of the best clips of his old 8mm. He made these movies, some of these movies in the 70s and 80s. But somebody's, he's digitized them or whatever, and they've been on YouTube for years. And people have talked about this Hutchison effect. People have tried to recreate and prove that the effect exists. One of the problems that I have with Mr. Hutchison is that if you ask him how the Hutchison effect works, he'll give you different answers almost every time he's asked. He doesn't have a consistent theory for how this works, why this works, what makes it work. It's very confusing. And it sort of offers a word salad, quantum vibrations. And really, if I've been following him for a very long time, I've heard him on numerous different television shows talking about his Hutchison effect. And inevitably, they always do the same thing. They play his really grainy old videos of stuff floating, and then he talks in circles about how it works, why it works, and I just don't understand. Maybe I'm just a stupid monkey and I'm not smart enough to understand what he's trying to allege. But essentially, he's alleging that he's using ultra high voltages and ultra high frequencies to make this effect work. I'm going to cite fair use. This is transformative work. We're educating the public, and we're educating the public and about the Hutchison effect. So we're going to cite fair use as we share a video here of the Hutchison effect. And this is a good one because it's pretty brief and it shows like all of the best of the different videos of this floating effect from John Hutchison. And I'd like to know in the live chat after we see this if you think that this is a real effect, or do you think that this was hoaxed or staged somehow?
Where they will levitate. Unbelievable.
There's a bowling ball.
I've seen electricity go right into objects and a million pieces just fly apart.
Yeah, and here's a good shot. One of the other Hutchison effects is basically, it looks like a directed energy weapon of some sort that melts even titanium at a cellular level somehow. And he's made various claims about this, showed samples of this, and people have looked at it and said it could have been melted with a welding torch or some high temperature source. Nobody's quite sure, but he's got tons of these samples that he shows that he claims he transmuted or changed the structure of the metal with this Hutchison effect. Like I said, this is not just anti-gravity, it's all kinds of different strange effects.
And jumping off to the ceiling or simply go up, hover, and then fall back down.
Yeah, and that's interesting because it's essentially a cup of ice that he's floating, and I think we're going to see ice cream too somewhere here. Oh, there's a broom.
It wasn't just metal. It clearly wasn't just some big magnet or something like that.
There's the ice cream. Yeah, and of course, all of these videos are from websites that want to sell you something, like, you know, build an anti-gravity generator plans. 1 second. There we go. I always forget to stop the video, and then we get this sort of. And I found another video where he's showing the metal samples that have been affected by this Hutchison effect. So we're going to cite fair use. But I want you to think about this floating effects. Does this look real to you, or does this look like it was staged or hoaxed, or, you know, does it look like a magic trick to you? Maybe I'm sort of biased or something, but to me, this looks like it doesn't look credible. It doesn't look real. But let's take a look at the. Oh, I have another video here. I'm going to cite fair use and share. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public about John Hutchison and the Hutchison effect. This one has him talking about the effect and its effects on metals. And he shows all these weird metal samples that look like they were burnt, melted, transmuted somehow, changed, really, torn apart, really. And I suppose that has been the government's interest. Also, just worthy of note that people have claimed, I think even he claimed, I could be wrong, but definitely people have claimed that it was a John Hutchison effect death ray that was used to make 9/11 happen somehow. Transmuted the metal in the beams and made the building fall. That's an out there theory, not one that I condone or support or believe is true. Just mentioning it because it's relevant, because people have claimed that the Hutchison effect had something to do with how the government staged 9/11. So let's check out this other video. Again, fair use. Wait a second. Let's try that again. Fair use.
Wood mixed in with the structure itself. We're not sure exactly on this sample how much wood, maybe a cubic inch or more inside here. And coming to other samples, we find again samples that have ripped themselves apart and rejoined, as you can see in this little sample here. And then we come to breaks that indicate actually a lot of stress. And there's a nice clean cut and looks like it meant stress. So this is broken in a fashion perhaps like that. And then on the other side of the coin, we come to something that looks like it was ripped apart or turned to jelly and ripped apart and frozen in time and space. This large moon.
Yeah, so again, these are various claims of John Hutchison. We're citing fair use. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public about John Hutchison and his various claims concerning what is commonly called the Hutchison effect, named after him.
Sample. Again, extrusion alloy was once one piece and was totally formed like this after some experiments, actually seen on video. We come to more hard materials such as stainless steel, but it just
I don't know why that video keeps jumping.
bent and and twisted around with a lot of little pot marks and pieces falling out of it. Again, similar to the large piece of steel that I just mentioned, for being the very first sample. And this is just many samples that I do have and that other people do have that still are undergoing analysis.
Yes, and it should also be noted that John Hutchison famously would, when people would visit his lab, he would just give these pieces of metal to people. But so far, I haven't been able to find any mention of anybody scientifically testing these samples to see if they could determine what caused these deformations or these strange effects
Around the world. And new theories are coming up almost weekly on what has happened here. On conventional physics, it would take terawatts of power to do this. There's no radio waves or anything that can do this. There's no electrostatic fields or lightning bolts that can do this. So in a way, the theory is key waves made up of electromagnetic and electrostatic fields that I produce, opening a doorway into another dimension that allows any kind of amount of energy to come in and do this to create these effects.
Yeah, and again, here we're getting an explanation that he's opening a doorway to another dimension, and the energy to create and deform these metals is coming from another dimension somehow. And this is just one of the many things I've heard him say about how this effect works, or how he believes that it works. Other people have theorized that he's simply using super high voltage, ion ray guns. Believe it, yeah, an ion ray gun is a real thing. You can make an ion ray gun and shoot something charge it with tons of ions and get strange effects. High voltage, he's got access to things like Tesla coils, so he could definitely be using high voltage to produce these effects. But again, I've never gotten a clear and concise explanation from Mr. Hutchison, despite watching probably every video I've ever, and documentary, and every one of his TV appearances just about him. I'm pretty sure I've seen, well, not all of them, I guess, because he was on a lot of foreign television shows talking about this effect. But we don't ever he can't tell us how he does it. He doesn't even know how he does it. He's just showing us a bunch of stuff flying up in the air and a bunch of metal that is having strange effects. Cannot tell us, like he could not explain to an electronics engineer what exactly he uses to generate this effect.
And it must be on the order of terawatts to do this. We've had larger samples, of course, fall apart, break apart. And basically, again, it seems to come back into a circle that the universe supplies all the energy needed for mankind, and also for propulsion and space travel.
Yes, and so he's essentially claiming that these effects are being caused by energy that he is pulling from the ether, again with the ether and Nikola Tesla's original theories, this sort of pre-Einsteinian understanding of physics, that there's this ether all around us and there's a sea of energy all around us, which I still think maybe there may be some truth to that assertion and that theory. But again, this vague explanation of, I'm pulling energy from the vacuum. This is from 0 point that's causing these effects. But he can't reproduce these effects in the presence. He has never produced these effects in the presence of a impartial observer or credible scientist, and has been caught hoaxing things. We're going to more on that in a moment.
I don't go into mathematics at all. I visualize things and always joust, so to speak, the conventional scientists or the scientists with the mathematics for saying that intuition is a shortcut through math. I visualize this and I put it in the best words that I can find. I can actually see the atom. I can see the different interactions of the dimensions inside of an atom. And I can explain it in those terms, visualize it, and actually do it physically. But mathematically, I'm a basket case when it comes to trying to understand mathematics.
Well, for that, I can't blame him for. For those that don't know, I have a background in computer science, and I struggle with math. Like, I'm fine with regular, numbers, but as soon as you start throwing letters and formulas, it gets confusing really fast. So for that, I don't blame him.
And I only use math in quantity. Like in electricity, I need mathematics. In electromechanical engineering, I need mathematics, just basic measurements. But when it comes to the exotic math, I'm a lost cause. So I must rely on intuition, which gives me a lot more to see and a lot more to do. I believe in doing it, and making the thing in reality instead of just drawing up a lot of numbers. There's a little bit of backbiting, but there's a lot around the world, scientists, very high-powered scientists, that were involved in the old Star Wars program, talking a lot of this now. They get into the psychic aspects of it, also the physics aspect of it also. A lot of the work is coming out and released with Lawrence Livermore. Still, Los Alamos is a little tight. It's slowly loosening up. Colonel Alexander now is into remote viewing. He's the head fellow involved in non-lethal weapon technology. He made an appearance on a program called Encounters. Ed Dames is now out of the INSCOM group, Security Command group.
Yes, and I guess worthy of note is that a lot of people have connected John Hutchison and the Hutchison effect with the Star Wars program, saying that they were going to be using a directed energy weapon, which goes back to Nikola Tesla. Directed energy weapons were really invented or envisioned originally by Nikola Tesla. And Hutchison is famous for recreating basically a Tesla death ray.
And that was on sightings. So there's a wave of media also coming forth, such as these programs showing what is really going on. Even ABC and NBC did a special on is remote viewing true or false, and they got a positive situation on the 1.5 hour program. ABC, I believe, or NBC, other one of the big networks in the States. So there's a lot of breakthrough in media coming slowly, but it's coming out more and more.
Yeah, and again, we just see these effects of things wiggling and moving, and it looks very strange to me.
And this will give people something to look at and think about. I think the mind can act as also a cohere of frequencies and transmit them out, and then lock this doorway into space and time. Some measurements at Stanford University and UCLA, Lawrence Livermore, and Dr. Henry Strapp, William Tiller, put it at around 22 to 24 centimeter waveband that a lot of this activity happens at.
Ever see more floating effects?
And their tests are quite exhaustive and quite extensive, giving a lot of interesting results. With McDonnell Douglas, they do a multitude of spoon bending, where they take control samples and then, of course, they put them under the electron scanning microscope to see if they were bent by force or by mind.
And here we see the
So
famous
breakthroughs are being done
floating
by
ice cream.
Richard Jan of Princeton University, who also is connected to McDonnell Douglas. And I'm not surprised even now if they have come across a formula on this area of physics, which has to be included. Everything is connected to everything else, in my opinion. Psychic to hardcore physics, let's say, outer fringe physics, time and space, cosmology, you name it.
Yeah, fringe science for sure. Now, there's one final video for our presentation that I'd like to share, again, citing fair use. And this is a video that gives me a lot of concern if I want to believe Mr. Hutchison and if I want to believe in his Hutchison effect. At numerous times, really, he has been caught faking floating effects. Probably one of the most famous is for a television show, and they caught him using wires. And And we're going to see an example of that. 1 second, friends. And this video is simply titled, Hutchison is a Fraud. And this is, again, in his lab, asked to demonstrate anti-gravity effects for a television show. And this is what he shows. There's no sound in this video, friends. So we see a little UFO flying saucer, but the problem is they forgot to move the string here in the upper left-hand corner out of the frame. And it's clearly a string moving back and forth here that this thing is suspended from. And that's very disappointing. Again, to my knowledge, he has not demonstrated things floating like for a television show with observers, or for anyone really with impartial observers. When asked to demonstrate, this is the kind of thing that he would do, which definitely does not help his credibility at all. Clearly, this thing is on a string. And it looks like maybe you can, no, I guess maybe you can only see the string in a certain portion of the video. So I guess Mr. Hutchison needs better editing when he's going to show off his anti-gravity effects to the world. Yeah. And so there is the Skeptics Dictionary has an entry on Mr. Hutchison that is extremely interesting. I'm not going to read this entire thing, but they call it the Hutchison hoax. And they say it's named after eccentric Canadian John Hutchison, a fan of Nikola Tesla and Tesla coils. Hutchison's claims to have discovered a number of weird things, such as the levitation of heavy objects. Most famously, probably a bowling ball in all of his videos, floating a bowling ball. That's a big, heavy object. Levitation of heavy objects and the fusion of metal and wood by forces heretofore undetected by normal scientists. Hutchison calls these weird things the Hutchison effect. Some of the things he calls weird seem to be explainable in terms of electromagnetism and other known physical forces, but he has more mysterious explanations, such as zero-point energy and electromagnetic fields that cancel out gravity. Unfortunately, he seems to be the only one who can produce these effects, but not even he can replicate them, at least not in the presence of observers. His evidence consists majorly of just his word and his self-produced videos. One suggestion made by skeptics is that Hutchison uses an electromagnet on the ceiling and places hidden pieces of metal inside objects so they will be attracted to the magnet. He could then film the objects with an upside-down camera as he powers down the electromagnet, making the objects on film appear to float up and out of the shot, when in reality they are falling down to the floor. So he may be running things in reverse, using electromagnets. People have theorized many different ways that he could be hoaxing this. Many of the videos include conspicuous objects in the sense which do not move, such as an old broom, which could be deliberately attached to add to the illusion that the camera is not upside down. Critics also point out that the videos do not show what happens to the objects after they levitate. His laboratory in his garage, kitchen, and other rooms his laboratory is in his garage, kitchen, and other rooms in his apartment. Much of his apparatus seems to have come from military surplus stores. We mentioned that on yesterday's shows. He is a collector of military surplus electronics items, whether it's radar arrays, big, huge military capacitors, power transformers, all kinds of things this guy's got in his collection. Hutchison came on the scene around 1979, and he has not been able to convince the scientific community that he is anything more than a crackpot. The same qualities that repulse the scientific community endear Hutchison to the mass media, the lone wolf genius with no degrees or academic background, who shows the world you don't need no education to find a source of unlimited energy that costs nearly nothing. Of course, it goes without saying that there will always be military persons attracted to the claims like those made by Hutchison. What general wouldn't want an army of levitating soldiers with unlimited power packs that cost and weigh next to nothing? Imagine tanks and planes protected by shields like those that protect the Starship Enterprise. It goes on to say that Hutchison has been profiled on the Discovery Channel, the Learning Channel, National Geographic Channel, and Nippon Television. He's also featured and discussed in various fringe science newsletters and websites. There's even a website devoted to his various hoaxes. Of course, some people take Hutchison seriously. For example, Mel Winfield even claims that he came up with the Hutchison effect first. Its proper name, according to Winfield, is nucleonic energy. According to Wikipedia, nucleonic energy is a technological concept developed by Canadian inventor Mel Winfield. It is energy obtained from the angular movement of the nucleons, protons and neutrons, within an atomic nucleus. Boy, that's a mouthful. Whereas gravity dictates that the spin axis of nucleons are oriented towards the center of the Earth, nucleonic energy allows for the axis to be reversed or directed in any desired direction in order to produce all forms of motion. Finally, there is a website devoted solely to 9/11 anomalies at the World Trade Center that are being attributed to the Hutchison effect by Dr. Judy Wood and Hutchison himself. So I was right. Hutchison believed or stated that 9/11 was caused by his Hutchison effect in the form of some sort of death ray that melted and transmuted the beams of the World Trade Center towers. It's quite inventive. Many readers will be surprised to find that the free energy technology related to the Hutchison effect technology was used to destroy the majority of the World Trade Center complex on 9/11. So, friends, this will conclude our short presentation. We have a short presentation tonight, and I guess I could try to do some sort of wrap up. And here's what I'll say. I've been following this John Hutchison for a while, and for various reasons, not just the Hutchison effect. I followed him because I like fringe science. I like strange science. I'm a fan of Nikola Tesla and free energy devices and strange electronics and things and lasers. And so I've followed him for probably since I first heard about him 20 years ago, I suppose, or saw him on a documentary. But what do I think about his claims? I find his claims less than credible for the reasons I've previously stated. He cannot explain to me how this effect works. And, I get the nutty professor sort of persona, but you gotta tell us how it works. And the other thing is, I'm a big fan of science being provable, and that is independently repeatable. If I were to give him credit for something, it would be these crystal power cells, because they are repeatable. Anybody can listen to him explain how to build a crystal power cell and build one, and it works. Maybe not exactly as his do, because he's got, 20 years of experience building them. Maybe he builds them better, builds them, but in general, the crystal power cells he describes are repeatable. And what does that mean? That means anybody with the scientific interest in the crystal power cells, as he describes, can get the ingredients, get the parts, and make one, and it works. The Hutchison effect is not repeatable, so far to my knowledge, though I will say there are many people on YouTube making videos of something that they call the Hutchison effect. But mostly what you see is people shooting very high frequency ultrasonic waves at things and making them shake, shudder, and move. That's not levitation. That's simple physics. Shooting enough, if you shoot enough if you shoot enough ultrasonic waves at something at high enough frequencies, low enough frequencies, high enough energy amperages, whatever, you're gonna see things shudder and shake. That's not reproducing, to my mind, that is not reproducing the Hutchison effect as he has displayed it, showed it, and talked about it. No one, to my knowledge, has been able to reproduce his floating effects or even these metal effects. So while I'm still a big fan of his. Is he a hoaxer? He's been caught floating a fake flying saucer on a string, and there's been a few other times where he was caught putting things on strings or using various other forms of trickery to show people, display to people his so-called Hutchison effect. Um, I guess I would say you gotta maybe not throw out the baby with the bathwater. There is certainly some to me useful information that he has shared over the years about different fringe science topics. And also, I suppose I respect him for being able to reproduce a great deal of Nikola Tesla's experiments. That has not ever been in, you know, that has never been denied. He has reproduced a great number of Nikola Tesla's machinery, equipment, and experiments, being a big Nikola Tesla fan. And I got to tell you, try it. It's not easy to build anything that Tesla built, including Tesla coils. They're really difficult to build. I mean, they're not impossible, but you have to be a pretty smart guy to build anything that Nikola Tesla built or reproduce it. So I think that there is, like I said, there is some value, especially in these crystal power cells. But again, as we covered yesterday, and we will cover, I guess, tomorrow, there are people that dispute that he invented or discovered crystal power cells, merely that he lifted the idea and experimented with it, got good results, and ran with it. The other most notable person or experimenter, and usually considered much more credible than Mr. Hutchison, is John Bedini. And John Bedini is another one of these free energy sort of characters, but a little more serious. John Bedini is much more serious and sort of talks and acts and looks like a scientist. And I guess he's generally regarded as being more credible. So there is certainly somewhat of a split in sort of this free energy subculture. Some people say John Hutchison just ripped this idea off of Bedini. And then I don't know that Bedini's ever commented on it, but there is a great number of videos of Bedini making these crystal power cells and things like that as well. So there's a bit of a split there. Some people say, no, Hutchison invented them first, and John Bedini heard about it from Hutchison. I don't know if they know each other or are friends. I'd be interested to know that. But seeing as how it's such a tiny subculture, sort of like the UFO subculture, everybody probably knows everybody. So, friends, that's my presentation. Now I'm going to devote my full attention to the live chat. Oh, there we go. I was not aware of that. Scientist who claims to have replicated Hutchison effect, Dr. Stoyan Sard, a Bulgarian-born Canadian, holds an engineering diploma and a PhD in physics. Yeah, I'll look that up. Conspiracy, absolutely. I want to see if somebody can replicate it. He worked for 17 years on space projects with former Soviet Union and 17 years with Canadian Space Agency at Canadian universities. Then he would seem to be a credible source, then, Conspiracy, right? So I could be in error. Maybe somebody has, if somebody can replicate the effect as shown in Mr. Hutchison's video, I would be surprised, and then I would be much more willing to believe Mr. Hutchison's claims. If it's all true, those instances of fakery are similar to the Enfield poltergeist flubs. Yeah, I seem to recall something about that pragmagic where they couldn't always get the effect. So when the camera, when they really need it to prove, to show something, they resorted to trickery. And people have claimed that about some psychics that have been caught faking stuff, like Uri Geller. Like maybe he did have those superpowers, but they left him or they weren't reliable. And when he was under pressure to create effects, he resorted to trickery. It's still a stretch to me. I can see lots of secondhand gossip about York Uni, but nothing legit. Thanks, Vanessa. Thor, we'll look into. Okay, let's see. What do we miss? Okay, Dennis Coach is here and says nucleons, spin and gravity are not causally connected. Now, I'm not a physicist. You could be right. Vanessa Thor says, I'm a big fan of science being, science, scientific method science. Yeah, it's got to be repeatable by independent sources. That's my big thing. That's my big thing. He's got to be able to reproduce it in order to prove that it's real and true. And I don't think that's asking too much if you're claiming that you can float bowling balls in your garage with, surplus military electronics equipment. First of all, he's never said exactly what he uses to produce the effect. He's always very vague. Well, I use electrostatic fields, and okay, electrostatic fields could be anything. It could be Tesla coils. It could be ion guns, ion generators. Could be microwaves. I've heard him mention microwaves before too. So I just wish that he would nail down and he could tell you exactly how he reproduces the effect. So some shout outs. Paranormal Hajigi is here. Bunya is here. Prag Magic is here. Out of Mind is here. Philip Blair is here. Vanessa Thor is here. Conspiracy is here. I saw Jean-Claude from Beyond Mystic earlier. He mentioned on Twitter that he's always been fascinated by this Hutchison effect. And I have been fascinated by this Hutchison effect for probably most of my life. Jean-Claude says, I've seen a few YouTube videos of Russians creating a death ray type gun using parts from a microwave oven. Yeah. Jean-Claude, I once got in a lot of trouble with my dad because I was picking microwaves out of the trash because they have coils in them. And he was really concerned that I was going to blow myself up or something because they have high power or really electrocute myself because they've got high power capacitors and things like that. He knew enough about electronics to know that, a capacitor doesn't discharge when you unplug it. It takes quite a while, so you could really hurt yourself. My dad was pissed. He was like, what are you doing with these microwaves? You're going to kill yourself. I have a feeling that I'm going to be going through similar stuff with my son because he's getting very curious about how things work and, that sort of thing. Yeah. So any comments or questions for me don't have to be specifically about tonight's topic. Just put them in the live chat. And I see Pragmagic is here. Pragmagic, I want you to come on as a guest. Can you do that? Get with me on Twitter and we'll plan a show. I think that would be fun. 0 Point Energy. Yes, like on Stardate Atlantis. Yeah, all these guys are really big science fiction fans, aren't they, right? So I guess the other thing that I was thinking about the Hutchison effect today, but the other thing that I'm thinking about is the new lockdowns. I don't know about your state, but it looks like my state, I'm in Pennsylvania, is going to be doing a lockdown until January at least. And that means a total lockdown. Bars, restaurants, schools are going to close. We're going to be back to you can't go anywhere but the supermarket and Walmart. And that's certainly depressing. I think we've all had enough of this shit, right? I don't know how anybody, at least other countries like Canada and Europe, they're giving people checks. Like if they say you can't go to work for 6 weeks, they're giving them 6 weeks worth of checks or money, United States, it's kind of like, good luck. Hope you don't starve to death. But, the good news is, I suppose that might kind of like either haven't straight given up on any business ideas that I have, but I just kind of went, I have to be nimble and virtual and not depend on in-person, not depend on my former business model, which was in-person sort of Oh, Dennis Coach says $4,000 relief for 1 month. I don't know what it is that you're talking about. Who is getting $4,000? Here in the US, we got $1,200 once, right? They talked about giving us $1,200 a second time, but so far haven't. Yeah. Conspiracy. Forwarded message from this person who claims to have recreated it. A Hutchison effect accidentally. Well, that's another thing, conspiracy. If he recreated the Hutchison effect accidentally, could he recreate it again? And could he show us exactly how to do that? $4,000 relief for 1 month. Again, Dennis, the relief lasted, I believe, 5 months. Yeah. Oh, wow, Vanessa Dory, I never even got the first 1,200. Well, I did. And what I did with it is I built that cabin sunroom, and I think I'm going to come in right under $1,200 because mostly I'm using trees and free windows, but I still need cement, 2x4s, screws, nails. It adds up pretty fast, especially the 2x4s. The price of lumber doubled, so it's great. Yeah, most Western countries are covering at least 85% of wages, except for the United States. And also, Bunya, if you happen to be the sole proprietor of a business in the United States, you don't get any of the unemployment or anything. So you're just fucked. So I'm just fucked. That's basically, that's the gist of what I'm learning from my government. I'm just fucked. But, I am, for one, trying to have an attitude of gratitude. I'm very lucky. I have a great wife, great two beautiful children, and I'm kind of a nerdy introvert anyway. I don't want to go anywhere, so I'm trying to remind myself to just get back into old hobbies. I'm going to be building these crystal power cells in my garage. I'm trying to build a little shop in there. Yeah, I can do this, I can go nowhere till January. I guess I'm okay with that. It's just kind of depressing. That's all. I thought we were rounding the curve, right? Is that what they call flattening the curve? I thought we've already flattened the curve and we were rounding the corner. That's the statement from Mr. Trump. Rounding the corner. Yeah, Steve be nimble, Steve be quick. Steve needs some money. Send me some PayPal, you pricks. Yeah, so I don't know if everybody can mention in the live chat. Oh yeah, the Jonaside says new lockdown Washington till December 14th so far. Yeah, but Mr. Fauci has said that things will not be returning to normal until probably the third quarter of 2021, right? So we may not be able to get back to our pre-COVID existences until Labor Day or something like that. And the other thing that really is kind of scary is that suddenly the government has the right to tell me who I can have at my Thanksgiving dinner table or who I can have at my Christmas dinner, And that's just strange to me. It's like you woke up in the fucking Twilight Zone here, and suddenly the government's going to tell you when you can have Thanksgiving, if you can have Thanksgiving, right? They're just like, Christmas is canceled, bah humbug, And this whole year, especially if you have children, right? Like I know some of you have children. I know Vanessa Thor does. And look, you got to still make a life for your children during all of this. So, like Halloween was weird because basically we still trick-or-treated, but it was just strange because basically people sat 10 feet away and they put like a basket of candy out for the kids. And it just felt wrong. It felt weird, And I'm trying to tell my kids to say thank you, but they can barely see the people they're thanking because they're so far away. It was bizarre. It was just bizarre. But I was still thankful that they could do that. And then we had like a Halloween party at our house and, Halloween Monster Mash music and all that kind of stuff. because you still have to make some kind of a life for your children during all this mess. I don't want them to, luckily, I think that my older son could care less. Like, he's happy as long as he's got snacks and, he doesn't care about going to school, not going to school. I don't think he cares, but I think he does better in life in general when he goes to school, because they have all these activities and things for him. And most of you know he's autistic, so he needs that sensory room they have there and therapy that he gets at school. He's just better off going to physical school, but now they're shutting down the schools, so he'll be home 24/7 again. But I don't. My younger son is 4, and I don't want him to even remember this. It made me upset. One day he said, "Daddy, maybe when the germs go away, we can go back to the playground." He hasn't been to a playground in like a year, since this started, because my wife is like, no, somebody with COVID could sit on the swing or, sneeze on it. Or so he hasn't been to a playground. Luckily, I built a playground for them at the cabin. But, it's all of these different things that are just bizarro right now. It's just bizarro. Oh, okay, Dennis, I didn't know you were in Canada. Yeah, Canada took care of you guys, right? True, gave people $4,000 a month to get through the lockdown. Sorry, it was 2,000. There are 2 people here. All right, so you and your wife, right? Each got 2,000. That's fair. You can survive until you can go back to work on that. But the United States, here's $1,200. We're gonna have you locked down. I don't know how long the lockdown was. It was like 6 months, though, really, until they started opening up some things like restaurants at 25% capacity and things like that. All that we had open was Home Depot, Lowe's, supermarkets, and the beer store, state stores, which, again, was bizarre. So Canadians get relief, and those who are still unemployed and still need relief will enhance their unemployment insurance. Yeah, good for them. Consolidate the middle class to a steaming pile of shit. Thanks, government. Yeah, and that's who, troubled minds, that is who this is affecting most, the middle class. The super rich don't care. They've got everything. They've got, they don't care. And they also think that they're not included. We have various examples of, rich people just doing what they want, like the governor of Michigan's husband was caught boating, like he's out on his yacht when he's supposed to be in lockdown, and Nancy Pelosi going and getting a haircut when nobody else is allowed to, and things like that. I guess if you got money, you can, the lockdown doesn't really matter to you. And the poor stay poor through this whole thing, right? That's not going to change. So it's basically the middle class that's most affected. They're destroying mom and pop businesses right now, destroying them with these lockdowns. I don't know how they expect people to survive, and I don't even like to, I try not to, I don't even want to really, occasionally a business owner that I know will talk to me about the troubles that they're facing. And it just depresses me because I feel terrible for these people. I have such empathy for them. They built this whole business their whole life. It was their dream to build this business. Business was doing good before COVID. COVID comes, you're done. I know somebody with a, and certainly restaurants are affected, they have to, again, I guess, be nimble. You got to go to takeout so that you can still make a living and feed your family. But what really bothers me is the things like the government saying that you can go to Walmart and buy groceries, but you can't go to your local deli, right? The local deli had a shutdown, which isn't fair. Or you can go to Home Depot, but you can't go to a mom and pop shop owned hardware store. It's just bizarre. Like, okay, so there's no COVID in Walmart and Home Depot, but there's COVID in my local mom and pop shop owned hardware store. None of this makes any sense. And the other thing is, Yeah, I don't want to get into a debate about masks or no masks. My thing is just wear it, can't hurt. But one of the things that's confusing to me is, everybody's wearing masks now, and the numbers keep going up, not down, which doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so Dennis Coach says, yeah, parts of Canada may go back into lockdown. Yeah, this is depressing. That's definitely depressing. Yeah, trouble minds. You can go to a protest, but you can't go to church. Exactly. And wasn't there one? There was a minister who held services outside of his church, and they called it they said this is a protest. I try to get around it, right? And I don't blame that guy. Yeah, I'm not even religious, and that pisses me off. I used to go to a place for meditation, and I haven't since this started. I haven't been to any church service or any spiritual, and you would think during this time, troubled minds, people need some sort of spirituality to help them deal with depression and the isolation that all of this is causing, and the mental problems that all of this could cause. I'm really concerned that this second lockdown is really going to just put the nail in the coffin of many of these businesses that are barely holding on. And that's a sad thing. Like I said, these people built this business. It was their dream. They worked so hard to build a business, and then the government just comes in and says, no, you got to shut down for 6 months. Good luck. Hope you make it through. Oh, yeah, I said conspiracy all the time. Boy, I've read that really wrong. Conspiracy. Okay, I get it now. I apologize. I'm glad you pointed that out, or I would have been saying your name wrong forever. Conspiracy. Now I know. Conspiracy. Yeah. I like The Wrath of Khan. That's one of my favorite movies, right? Yeah, on a serious night. One second. On a serious note, the suicide rate is up. Yes, and so is levels of alcoholism, levels of drug use, levels of domestic abuse. All of those things are up right now. So it really is a case of the cure might be worse than the disease. Wait, what is it? The cure is worse than the disease, And one of the things that's none of this makes any sense to me. Here's something that doesn't make any sense to me. We've got all of these therapeutics now, right? And I believe that the death rate is going way down because now we've got these antibody treatments. We've got, hydrochloroquine and Respiratool or remdesivir. And I know a few people that got COVID and they got remdesivir and they felt fine in 2 days. So I think this overreaching and overreaction, it may be an overreaction, but then again, part of me goes, it's better be safe than sorry. I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to be around anybody because I figure the more I can reduce my exposure to other people, the safer that my family will be. My son has asthma. He's high risk. I have previous health conditions. I could be considered high risk. And it's a crapshoot, right? Like some people get this thing and it's like a mild cold and they're over it in a few days or a week and they feel fine after that. And then some people get it. I have one old friend that got it and he's still having trouble breathing, and it did lung damage. It did major damage to his lungs, his doctors think, and he's going to have long-term health effects. And he was sick for like a month with it originally. And this health effects have lingered on. So it's really like a crapshoot. I don't want to be one of those people that gets it and is really sick or, God forbid, deathly ill or die over it. So for me, I'm erring on the side of caution, reducing my exposure to everyone. Probably just safer that way. It is criminally insane to have a health system run by insurance and pharma companies. That I will agree with you. I don't think insurance companies should have anything to say about what you need. If the doctor says you need a certain surgery, you get the surgery. They shouldn't be allowed to like negotiate things like, well, that's an expensive surgery, or I remember because of the brain aneurysm, I needed a lot of MRIs, and MRIs are expensive as hell. So the insurance company was arguing with the doctors, and the doctor had to push them like he needs the MRI. He's got to get an MRI every this many months so that we can check and make sure that everything is okay. And yeah, and that pissed me off. Like, you pay for this health insurance, then you have a health problem and they don't want to provide the services or pay for them. They're all right taking that check every month though, right? I was starting my own costume business back in 2017, broke my ankle in 2018 and 2019, 2 surgeries. And this year I was supposed to kick ass. Yeah, I know how you feel, right? Yeah. I was feeling so good in February before this shit hit. I was feeling really good and positive about my financial outlook for this year. And this year has been probably my worst year of make for financial, like the worst income that I've had. I can't even tell you in how long. Like, I probably made more money when I was 16 working some shit retail job than I did this year. And that's terrible to admit, but it is what it is. Yes, something to do with type O blood being more robust versus COVID. Troubled minds, I'm not sure which one of the blood types is it that people have the hardest time with COVID, because that's the one that I've got, the one that they said people with that blood type have the worst time with COVID. That's another reason why I'm like being overly cautious, and I'm trying not to become a germaphobe, but I kind of am. Like, I got hand sanitizer anytime I get out of my car and touch anything like a Mac machine or ATM buttons or a gas pump, whatever. If I touch anything, I am spraying down my hands with this hand sanitizer and all that kind of stuff. And I've definitely washed my hands more than I ever had in my life. But I will say this, I have not even had the sniffles, really. Oh no, that's not accurate. I guess I had a sore throat for like a day and a half, and I got really nervous with that sore throat, thinking that it was the onset of COVID. But other than a sore throat for a day and a half, since March, nothing. No sniffles, nothing. No. And when you have kids, I guess it's because they haven't been going to school, because kids are just like germ factories. And I used to get sick once a month, it felt like, with these kids. They were always bringing little bugs home, stomach viruses, flu, colds, constantly had cold. All last year I had a cold. So honestly, I guess, like I was saying, you got to look on the bright side of things. This is the healthiest that I've been in a year, probably. Of course, this is the least sick that I've been. I'll say that, not the healthiest that I've been, because I'm sure that I'm drinking too much and smoking too much. And I'm trying to switch to these vapes. It's not working. It's not taking, but I keep on going, trying that. Same thing happened to me. MRIs monitoring my bone tumor for cancer. Insurance literally rejected every procedure. BS. Yeah, they shouldn't have any. If the doctor says you need something, you should just be able to get it. They should have nothing to say about it. Just pay the fucking bill. That's what insurance is for. It's just like auto insurance. I remember my mother's car got totaled. Somebody hit her and totaled the car. Like, it was pretty obvious that the car could not be repaired. They just came out and decided that like the car was only worth $800 or something because it had high mileage. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, the blue book is like at least $2,500. You can't just give us $800. And they were like, no, that's what we're giving you. Take it or leave it. And you don't have any say in this, and there's no recourse there. I thought, Jesus, that's bullshit, because that's the first, my mother was like 67 or something, and that was the first accident she'd ever been in, never needed insurance ever. And by the way, I think the person that hit her had no insurance, so it had to go to ours. She had full coverage on this old piece of crap car. Only gave her $800. Then his coach, A and B. Now, I don't remember. I think I have blood type B, I think. I always have to ask my wife. I don't know. But I have whatever the blood type is that people have the worst time with COVID. That's the blood type I have. So that makes me more nervous, I suppose, than I should be about contracting COVID. Impossible to say with all the partisan framing of a pandemic. Yeah. And it looks like Biden's pandemic advisor is saying, well, we should at least do a 6-week nationwide lockdown. So the lockdowns are coming. They're definitely coming. It looks like some states have already started. New Jersey, New York. Michigan's I think they're still locked down. I don't know. I think they're going to be locked down forever. That governor's a nut job. My sister has a health crisis right now. It could be MS, but they're fighting all the tests she needs. Yeah, that's what they do. It's ridiculous. There's this false belief that people in Canada don't like their health care, because socialized medicine is terrible. But Dennis, Coach, you're in Canada. How do you like your healthcare system? Like, do you think that it's terrible? And is it really true that people in Canada, when they need a surgery, come here and pay cash? I don't think that's true. I've never heard. I don't think that's true. I think people in Canada like their healthcare. Everybody I've ever talked to that lived in Canada was like, yeah, it's great. If I need something, I just go and I get it. And that's it. And sure, you guys pay slightly higher taxes, but, I think that's part of it's part of just doing business. It's part of the deal. Like, okay, I'll pay higher taxes, but I won't be paying exorbitant, ridiculous, even just the co-pays are crazy sometimes, Like I remember one time I had to go to an emergency room, and it turned out that I was having gallbladder attacks, and I had to get my gallbladder removed. And I think the copay for the emergency room visit was like $800 or something, and that was just a copay, So imagine what they pay the hospital. Healthcare system is fair. Yes, we need certain list of procedures the government will not pay for. What won't they pay for, Dennis, Coach? I thought they paid for everything. Do you mean like cosmetic surgery and things like that? I think they pay for most everything, though, right? Just like if you need surgery or heart surgery or knee surgery, or you have a broken arm, broken leg, they take care of all that, right? Or what if you need brain surgery? They take care of that, right? Or cancer treatment. I think they take care of that. That's so funny. Conspiracy. Now I see it very clearly now that I look at your name. I should have caught that. Conspiracy. So I guess, friends, we're going to call this one a quick one and wrap things up. Tomorrow, we should be returning to coverage on. Tomorrow, we're going to be covering, I believe, unless we're going to skip, because, I'm a little ADD and I do that. We're probably going to be covering John Bedini and the Bedini motor. And, I'm still trying to get an interview with Cliff High because he is experimenting with these free energy devices. I think that would be good. My experience of Canadian healthcare was great, Stephen. I went to 2-year university in Canada with student visa. Even my care in Canada was free. Wow. So even if you're not a citizen, I guess if you got to go to the hospital or you're sick, you got to get healthcare somewhere, right? Hereditary spastic paraplegia. A genetic defect. Nope. $3 million treatment. Wow. So they don't cover spastic paraplegia. Well, that's sad. Canadians donated to a baby's treatment. Wow, that's really sad. I wasn't aware of that. I'm going to have to look it up, what they cover and what they don't cover. Dennis, Coach. Yes, Canada will pay for visitors. That's interesting. Wasn't so cold there, Dennis. I'd be moving there right now. I think I've had enough of this shit show called the United States. And I like the wilderness, but I don't like cold. But then when I think about it, like, it's not much colder in Canada, and the winter's not that much longer in Canada than in the mountains where my cabin is. So I guess I'd get used to it, right? But in any case, friends, we're going to wrap things up here. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. We're going to be continuing our coverage of these strange free energy devices and these strange and interesting characters that inhabit the subculture of free energy devices. I find this stuff fascinating. I hope you do too. So we're going to wrap things up, friends. I will be back tomorrow evening, hopefully a little bit earlier. I had some other things I had to attend to today, so I figured let's try a late show. Seems like the numbers are better earlier, so we're going to return to, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 p.m. tomorrow evening. That seems to be the sweet spot for us, where we get the most viewers. So we'll be back tomorrow. I did not put the begging bowl out today because I don't like to do that every single show. I'll put the begging bowl out tomorrow. But if you do want to donate, there's links in the About section for both Patreon and PayPal. So until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.